So the first video that we did just now, in the first task, was looking at what happens if we mess around with the range. We're going to do a slightly different thing with this one. Instead of messing around with the range, we're actually messing around with the equation. So we're making the equation here a bit more complicated, giving us a little bit more work that we need to do to solve it. However, the good news about this one is it's not half as horrible as adapting the range. So this time we are dealing with an equation. For the moment, we're just going to ignore the fact we've got cos x. We'll just think of it as an equation. 4 times something plus 2 equals minus 1. So we're going to take 2 off both sides, which will leave us with 4 cos x equals minus 3. And then we can divide both sides by 4. So we end up with cos of x equals minus 3/4 or minus 0.75. Doesn't matter which one you do. But we're able to get ourselves back to the type of equation that we know how to solve. And then we can work from there. So working with that, if we're taking a graph approach, we do cos to minus 1 of minus 3/4. And that is going to give us, in the calculator, 138.59 degrees. If you do that and you just do, I'm going to run out of space, just positive 3/4 to get your relative acute angle, that would give you 41.41 degrees. So it doesn't matter which one you've used, this one for cast, this one if we're just using a graph. Draw ourselves our graph. It's a cos graph we're after. So our first angle is 138.59, which takes us along to a point about here, which makes sense. We're at about minus 3/4. So that makes sense. So our first angle is taking us all the way along on our graph until we get to here. So the matching bit would be this section here. So we're coming back from 360 by 138. So we're doing 360, take away 138.59 degrees. If you do that, you arrive at 221.41 degrees. We can match that with a cast version of that. We've got cos and it is negative, so that is there and there. If this is 180, we do 180 plus the RAA and 180 take away the RAA in that one. 180 plus the relative acute angle there. So we have 180 take away 41.41, which gives us 138.59. So that matches up with what we had up there. The other one, we've got 180 plus 41.41, which gives us 221.41, which matches what we had there. So it doesn't matter whether you used your cast method or your graph method. Again, as ever, giving us the same answer. So our answers in this case are 138.59 or 221.41. So there's our two answers to this equation. So normal-ish range for this question, but there is the rearranging to do instead first before you start solving. So again, your turn, have a go. Pause the video and I'll run through it in the second half of this video. All right, so if you pause the video and you've had a go, that means that we can start solving. So we've got 3 tan x, take away 2 equals 0. Add the 2 to both sides, so we end up with 3 tan x equals 2. Divide both sides by 3, so we end up with tan x equals 2/3. Our relative acute angle and our graph approach are the same because we've got a positive here. So we're just doing the inverse tan of 2/3 or 0.6666. That should have got you 33.424 etc. And I'm actually going to round that to 33.42. So, apologies, sorry, I realized I just used a rounded answer. I used 0.66, which is too rounded in there. So, apologies about that. Just so it matches with what you've got. I've got 33 point, let me just check on the calculator again. 69? Yep, 69. There. 6900 something. Okay, so that's our angle. Apologies for that. We can draw our graph very quickly. Looks something like that. So our first angle is happening when we're at 2/3, which is about there, say. So that's our 33.69. The next one's happening, that's 180. So the next one's happening the same distance beyond 180. So we have 180 plus 33.69 as our next value. If we work that out, that should have given us 213.69 degrees. Equally, if you use cast, you'll find you've got a value up there, which is your relative acute angle, or 33.69, and a value down here, which is at 180 plus 33.69. And that's that one there. So if you worked it through, those are your two possible answers. So let's summarize those at the end. So our answers are 33.69 degrees and 213.69 degrees. So working through those, hopefully nothing there that has thrown you too much. The next video that I'm going to do is going to be a super horrible example, which includes not only rearranging to start with, but then also includes a wee bit later on some of the work we did with ranges. And just to make it even more horrible, I've put it all in radians. So these ones are very standard examples. Video 2 are going to be maybe a bit of a less standard example, something that takes quite a bit of thinking and working through.